All right. Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Sonia McGowan with Covenant Pediatric Wellness Center, and we are here for our monthly Facebook Live event. And I'm here with Aelisa Dieckmann. Aelisa is from the St. Louis, Missouri area. She's got three kiddos and herself with a very interesting story. So, Aelisa, hi. Tell us all about yourself.
Like she said, my name is Aelisa Dieckmann, and I am 45 years old. I have my husband, my son Gavin, who's 11, Madelyn, who just turned 10, and then Gabrielle, who's 7. And yeah, we live in the St. Louis area. And yeah.
So, you started seeing me with Gabrielle several years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of tell us the background of that.
Yeah. So all three of my babies were colicky in some way, all three of them. Um, didn't eat well, didn't nurse well. They cried a lot, so much crying, so much crying. And every pregnancy, when we had Gabrielle, we just had a lot of different experiences with her. And she was healthy and thriving, but her behavior was off, from the time she was little, just very moody and lashed out. And so I started just to wonder what was going on. And I remember that one day my girlfriend reached out to me and she said, "Hey, I was watching like a 60 Minutes or something like that. And I heard about this thing called PANS or pandas. And I know you've talked about Gabrielle. And I don't know, it may be something you wanted to look at." And in hindsight, it was such a blessing because it really opened my world to what is that. And so it was, fitting a lot of the criteria that we were seeing with Gabrielle. And so I started Googling it in the St. Louis area. And I found you, Dr. McGowan, in Jeff City. And as any mother knows, when you're going through something and you will drive to Jefferson City or, do whatever you need to do to get that ball rolling. And so that's what we started with Gabrielle.
And she had some behavior and mood concerns, but there were other things about her too. Remember, her hair wasn't growing, her
Oh yeah.
fingernails didn't grow very
Yep.
quickly. And you were like, what's the deal? Like, we've got the hair in our family, right? And she just
Yes.
wasn't
Yes.
keeping up.
Yes. And to this day, her hair doesn't grow. I mean, it's growing better, but it just didn't grow. And people will tell you, "Oh, well, don't worry about that. My baby was bald till she was 2." This child was like bald till she was like 4 and looked like a
Yeah.
boy haircut and not even thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, very strange, different things that just like, that's not right. Or, yeah. And
Yeah.
then there was the mood part of it too.
Right. And we did some initial testing and we found she had a lot of deficiencies. She had a lot of mitochondrial dysfunction,
Yep.
things like that. And you eventually took her to Brain Balance, right?
We did. Yes.
Mhm.
So we committed to 9 months of brain balance, and that really helped move the needle in so many different ways. And we're grateful for that experience. Um, so she has dyslexia too, which is a different, unrelated to anything from our house or, environmental. And so that helped with that. She used to always say before she went to bed, "Silly dance penguin waddle, I love you." And she would say that over and over and over again. And it was like an obsessive thing. I mean, we would get into arguments and like it was just this thing that she couldn't control. And so brain balance really helped that. We don't hear that anymore. And there's a couple other things. She still, has moody issues, but it really did move the needle for us.
Nice. I used
Yeah.
Brain Balance for my son too, and it was a
Yeah.
huge win for
Yeah.
him as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's now kind of segue into the mold
Sure.
experience. Tell me about just what you have been through in terms of mold.
Yeah. So we just moved, but we were at our previous house for 11 and a half years. I was about 8 months pregnant with Gavin, our oldest, when we moved in. So my experience giving birth to Gavin, I kind of just started blaming the symptoms on postpartum, you know. But there was a time between Gavin and Madelyn that I went and got checked for MS. Weird things started happening. Like I didn't feel like I had control of my left arm. And I was seeing a neurologist for this, and they would do the brain scans and be like, "You're fine. I don't, you know." And so those were really the first experiences. And as a woman, especially if you've had children, you're kind of put into this category that like, that's just, now you're kind of this crazy woman who's had babies and your hormones. And so I just kind of believed it and went on with my day and suffered because I thought that, well, that's part of being a woman and having a baby. But with each birth that I had, when I would give birth to the next child, things would get even worse. And I kept telling my husband, I think it's this house. I think it's this house. Well, it happened that we gave birth to Gabrielle, and I went downhill after that, like postpartum, severe anxiety, depression. I'm one of those people that the commercial warns you about with the SSRIs and that it causes suicidal ideation. That's me, and it did. And so when I tell you I went down into a deep, I did, and it was awful. And I was able to climb myself back up with holistic, which introduced me to the whole holistic healing world, really, because the pharmaceutical world couldn't help me in the typical sense. So I got out of that, but my symptoms got worse. And I'm going to read you, if you don't mind, just a couple of them. I had brain fog, severe pain, absolute severe pain. Like I've been to so many doctors, sleep issue, abnormal muscle aches, severe tiredness. My thyroid ended up being blown. I had no hormones, neuropathy. They took a piece of my skin and mailed it off to New York, and I have neuropathy, anxiety, depression, numbness, tingling, ear ringing. My heart rate would shoot up. At one point I was on 4 blood pressure medicines. Right. And I'm, pretty healthy for the most part. I have these weird temperature regulation issues where I will just get freezing to the bone, or I'll be so hot. Frequent urination every 15 minutes. Yeah. Which I now know is a part of the mold, but I didn't know that then. Weakness, blood sugar issues. I had unusual periods where I had to have I had my uterus removed, so that to control that. Nausea, panic attacks, all these things were happening to me. And I saw every doctor under the sun. If I'm being truly transparent, I bet you we spent every bit of $100,000 trying to get me better. I have driven to Chicago. I have endless searches, just trying and trying. And I think that's a good thing about me is I don't give up.
Yeah.
So there's that, but it did cost money, right? And a lot of just my soul telling me something's not right. This isn't normal. So then we kind of back up with Gabrielle. She was definitely the hardest of them all. And if you meet Gabrielle, you will love her. She is a bright soul in this world. She has a place and she has a drive, but she has what we call these volcano eruptions. And so we watch the volcano, and she doesn't really have control over it. And she's trouble making friends now and having relationships because of this anger and outburst. But then we just thought it was just Gabrielle, right? And then me, because I'm, had the babies and have all these
Right.
issues. Well, then we started Madelyn. We always said, well, thank goodness for Madelyn, because she's, the one that's responsible, and she just naturally was a people pleaser, and you didn't have to tell her to do her homework. She was a straight A student. Well, she started to dip, and not in the same way Gabrielle was, but it wasn't normal. It was very, very strange. And I kept raising the red flag and kept raising the red flag, and I couldn't get anybody's attention. And so then we saw Gavin go downhill, and eventually we saw Dan take on symptoms too. And so 11 and a half years. And
Wow.
yeah. When I tell the story, I said, I'm not crazy. I'm just first.
Uh-huh.
I was
For
just the
sure.
first one to, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was in the house all day. And also with kids being that young at the time, you blame a lot of those issues on toddlers
Mm-hmm.
and toddler meltdowns. But now looking back, because it's always clear and reflection.
Mm,
I can see that none of that was normal.
yeah.
None of that.
So all the kind of the best parts of motherhood got stolen from you because of this
Rips
situation.
my heart out to think about all those years we have been absolutely stuck in fight or flight.
Mm. So what were Gavin and Madelyn's symptoms like? What started making you worry about them?
You know, Madelyn would have these just defiant rage, mood, anger. The best way I can describe it is like we've all had hot pokers, and it just feels like your nerves are on fire. It really does. Angry. Everything is somebody else's fault. And if they could just control the way they were chewing, my life would be good. And
Right.
I mean that to an extreme. I'll never forget one time I had my hand up against the window on the car and my ring hit the glass. It just made a ting, and
Mhm.
that noise set Madelyn off so bad. We had to pull the car over. Little things, chewing, no other noises, breathing, all these sensory issues. Um, and it just got worse and worse, Dr. McGowan. It wasn't getting any better,
Ah.
any better.
And what about Gavin? What was he looking like?
His presented differently. So he was more sulky, more melancholy. He definitely had anger issues. None of my kids can let something go. It's
Mm.
like they're stuck on this and um, and it's cute for a little bit, but it's not funny because it's relentless.
Yeah.
And so it's like this obsessiveness. And yeah, he presented more just anger.
Uh-huh.
Well, we all have anger. We all, and I'm not talking about just normal anger, but just, this rage. But he was more sulky. And all of my kids started to get very picky with their foods. And we have a rule in our house. We make one dinner and, I'm not serving curry. This is pretty typical
Right.
American dinner. And yeah, it was just, this is fat. No, it's not fat, or sometimes they don't eat at all, and there would be days where I didn't eat and I would be in bed at 6 p.m. I always said to my husband, I'm on testosterone. I had no hormones when I finally got to a female doctor. And she was like, whoa. And by the way, I was told by my OBGYN and everybody, all my hormones were fine. But
Of
anyway,
course.
I got on testosterone pellets, bioidentical. And I always have said that without those, I would be probably bedridden.
Mm. So when did it finally come to your awareness that maybe you were dealing with mold?
Yeah. My husband is in the industry. So he hired a friend back, I would say like 2017, 2018, to come out and check our air quality. And he did that. And he was like, you're fine. I don't even remember seeing a report. We just kind of trusted him. What I now know, and I'm no expert in this, but is that those mycotoxins are very heavy. And so they fall to the floor or around. And so unless you have a perfect stirring up of what's really in your house, an air test is not going to get exactly what a real estimate of what's in your house and what you're breathing in. And so we just trusted that and we kept going. And I kept saying, and really like that mother intuition, it's got to be in this house. This is not right. And so the catalyst was, though, that we had a dishwasher leak. A company was installing a dishwasher. It caused, some water damage that ended up turning into. And for the longest time, I was telling Dan, and these floors at this time were really dark hardwood. So it's hard to see a water stain
Mm.
during the winter sun. And I was telling him, hey, I clean these floors. This is not normal. And the line would spread, a little bit more. This is not normal. And so that went on probably for 9 months. And he hired a friend to come out and with up humidifiers, dehumidifiers. And finally, when we ripped up the subfloor and got to it, there was catonium lab tested. It had gone through to the kickboards and it was in the air, penicillin. Yeah. And
Wow.
so it was significant. And it always too, it's very interesting. The winters are extremely hard for us. And so this was during the winter time. And I don't know exactly why, but my best guess is because, there's some viruses kicking around and they stir up the PANS symptoms and all the things. But winter, and we're not sweating, we're not getting outside sweating.
And less vitamin D.
Right.
Mhm,
Winters are
mhm.
extremely, extremely hard for us. Yeah.
So, once you found this mold and you're like, oh my gosh, what did you do?
Yeah. So we hired the company that did the dishwasher leak was worked with us, and they hired their people to come out and remediate, which I don't think they did the best job, but yeah, I trusted it. And so we had it professionally remediated. We had to live outside of our home for over 3 months. Yeah. We stayed at a cabin, and which is, but it had its own distance where the kids are not in their bed. They don't have their normal toys, but we did it. We got through it. The home was remediated. Air quality came back. They tested everything again. Totally fine. All the in fact, I'm going to jump back just a second. Just the floor, the subfloor that had been damaged, there's this huge black, and all this is lab tested. And they just sprayed it with shockwave, a type of shockwave, and said, okay, we're just going to build on top of it. And I was like, you're not leaving that. I am not kidding you when I say that probably 3 or 4 different people called me like I was some crazy person. We don't need to rip up this stuff. Yes, you do. I want it gone. If I need to pay out of pocket, I will. We're not leaving that there. But man, we did all the protocol, great. But remove the floor. And so they finally did, but it took a long time. And so we get back in the house and we're expecting to feel better, but we didn't. So we moved back last September. Now we're going to roll into winter again, right? And if it's gone, why don't we feel better? If these things that just didn't sit well with my spirit, like something's not right. Something's not right. Even though we got the mold, or the professionals tell us that we got the mold, it didn't sit well with me.
So you have gotten kind of used to being told you're crazy.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely had to be comfortable. I got to a place where call me whatever you want to call me. Yeah.
So really, what you were seeing with colic and feeding problems and mood problems and dysregulation and
Yes.
on down the line,
Yeah.
The answer was the mold exposure.
The genesis. Yeah. Yep.
And you could have gone with prescriptions.
Yes.
To like check the box,
yes.
ADHD, mood, whatever, but you didn't do that. Why?
I think because that would have been the easy answer, I think there's a time and place for some of those, but my heart wouldn't let me give up. I wasn't convinced that it was a psychiatric issue. I think that there's just too many things going on for it to be this one, or to just be, there. One thing I always said, Dr. McGowan, to my husband, why does ibuprofen temporarily help the psychiatric issues?
Right.
I always said that. I'm going to make a sign in my house that, that's how many times I said that. Why does ibuprofen move the needle? It's because there's inflammation in our bodies, and it temporarily suppresses that system, or however it works, makes us feel better, helps the brain to calm down, and that anxiety goes down. But those little things got ignored, those little aha moments, they just get put on the back burner, and you're going on another day, and you just keep surviving in this hell.
Mm.
And like
so
you said,
we did some testing. So
Yeah.
you've got a little vindication here, right?
Hallelujah. Yeah.
So we did mold testing on the 3 kids and you.
Yeah.
And what did we find?
High OTA.
Yep.
Very high OTA. And the child that presented with the worst symptoms had the highest of us all. She couldn't get any closer to the end of red, which is sad. And I'm not saying that happily, but it makes sense because she had all these tics and these mood issues, and it's just heartbreaking things she would say. There's a life's really hard for me, Mom. Nobody likes me, this. So yeah, she the whole time was being exposed to OTA, which I think is aspergillus and penicillin, and it's just heart-wrenching.
It is.
Heart-wrenching.
Because what that has done really is triggered PANS for her. So
Right.
pediatric acute neuropsychiatric syndrome.
Yep.
So if this set of symptoms is triggered by strep, we call it pandas. If it's triggered by something else, we call it PANS. And so
Right.
that really is what has sort of landed in your lap.
Yes. Yes.
This acute neuropsychiatric symptom. It looks psychiatric, but it's biologically driven.
Yes.
It's driven by mold.
Yep. Yep. And, for some of us do have the panda side of things from the strep. And that was another thing during the winter. Why are we always sick? Why do we get everything that comes down the pipeline? Everything.
Yeah.
It's because our immune systems were knocked down already.
Right.
And so if you have a compromised immune system, because of an underlying factor, you're going to take on everything that comes in, and we just couldn't fight it.
So where do you guys stand now?
We moved. Yeah, we moved. And again, the professionals all came in and said the house is good. We finally, moved, and that is a whole process on its own. So, but we're there, and we're excited for a new chapter, working with you and helping to detox our bodies and get us back to a new normal and a new season of life.
And I can imagine that the house hunt was intimidating because you want to make sure you're not just moving from one moldy place to another moldy place.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. In fact, when we were, I think we had even put an offer in on this house. And so Dan and I agreed to have this home tested because we wanted to make sure. And so the guy came in and he was like, "Oh, there's some moldy boards downstairs." I'm like, "Well," my heart just,
Yeah.
So, apparently in construction, it's not like in the walls or anything, but in construction, they use some wet boards sometimes and they just put them up. It snows on construction and all sorts of different elements in Missouri. And so we did have that come in professionally remediated. Nothing like water pouring in, that's a different kind of damage. But yeah, that was very, very scary time for us. Like, what are we looking at? Is it worth it? So we had to buy all new furniture.
I was going to say, it wasn't just moving a house, right?
No.
There's a lot more to it.
We were very calculated on what we took with us because you don't want to expose yourself to that same stuff that you had been breathing in. So all new pillows, new couch, all of it. And that's a heavy burden on a family.
Well, you're already remediating. You were out of your house for 3 months. Now you have to buy a new house and now new furniture. Like, you could see where people with limited resources would really just be trapped.
It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because there's a woman out there that I pray sees this, that knows in our heart that there's something more going on. And I really want to encourage her to listen to her spirit and listen to what's guiding her, because the world will tell you you're crazy. They will, especially the doctors who have been trained a certain way and they follow the algorithm and they don't think any way besides. I can remember going to my primary doctor, who's an MD, and saying, and I said this many times to him, I urinate all the time. And I'm talking about full bladder. I could go at the bottom, going into the hospital to see him. I could go on the main floor. And by the time I got up to the 4th floor to see him, I'd have to go again, And he just said that you probably have overactive bladder. And so I thought, okay, now I just have overactive. No, I don't. That's a symptom of OTA, toxic mold poisoning. It's a very common symptom.
Yeah.
And so just trusting yourself, trusting that to lead you and to not give up. That's really important to me.
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, because I would imagine you feel really alone because it's not like you're going to lunch with your girlfriend saying, "Hey, we've got mold illness in my house. What do you
Listen
have
to
going
the
on?" You
drama.
know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
right?
I have lived in my own little prison. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing the looks that you get when you have kids with pans, you know? I love my kids to death, but, they can't control it, and I have been judged and scrutinized and looked at sideways for like I'm some bad mother, you know? Yeah, and then you don't like you said, you don't tell your friends. It's like this silent battle that you're going on by yourself. And I should be better about sharing with people. I should. But it's just really hard. It's a journey. It's been a journey of one.
Right.
Truly. My husband did not believe me. I don't know if he still believes me. There's a part of him that has to because we moved and we got all new furniture and
Yeah.
there's some testing that he can't deny. But to know that your kids are whole and complete, but you need to get them, it's not something that you just fix to cover up a symptom. Because a lot of times, I would take a blood pressure medicine, but it would just lead to another blood pressure medicine. And that inside voice that was telling me, this isn't right. Why am I on 4 blood pressure medicines? I'm not obese. I'm pretty active for the most part. Something's not right.
Wow. And it's not like so we are at the kind of the second hurdle, like finding the mold and moving
Yeah,
and sort of,
yeah,
and now we've done testing. So
yeah,
now it's implementing how to get everybody better. But that's not overnight, right? We've got to
right.
set a lot of groundwork. We have to do some foundational work before we can really start moving that mold out of your systems.
Yeah,
So that has to be probably a little frustrating too, because you're like, okay, come on, let's get with this. Let's get the kids better as
yeah,
soon as possible.
yeah. So when we did brain balance, all 3 of my kids did it. I don't know if I told you that. So we all committed to 9 months of brain balance, and we were the first family they had seen that did 3. And so you have to do these primitive exercise reflexes every night, and we just got through it. This is something we're committing to, and we're going to do it. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to make it happen. And the same with our supplement schedule. I mean, if you open up one of my pantry doors, you've got Aelisa, Gavin, and you have to refer to the schedule and look,
Yeah.
but we're going to do it, and we're going to be commit to it, and we're going to give it our all.
Well,
Yeah,
I sure am looking forward to the day when you're feeling yourself again and the
yeah,
kids are can show us what their real personalities are,
yeah,
right? Because that exposure has changed their brains, and we need to see who they really are and what
no,
they, how they really feel.
yeah, and like you said, it just breaks my heart that those awesome years were, I don't want to say taken away from me because they were with me and they're healthy and they're here, but it wasn't the experience that you typically, it was always everybody fighting. It was very dysfunctional,
Yeah, right.
hard, and it was a struggle. It's
Yeah.
been a struggle, and I'm so excited. So one thing I can share with you is that we've already noticed the kids sleeping a better. So that is a blessing because that was another thing. They didn't sleep. Even when they're 8 years old or 10 years old. It was awful. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you had to end this with kind of maybe um, advice or
Yeah.
wisdom for someone who suspects that something isn't quite right with their child or children,
Yeah.
what would you say?
I would say to trust yourself and to trust that you um, you know your children, you know differences, and even if everybody else is telling you that you're crazy, you're probably not. You're probably not. You're probably just ahead. And I want to encourage you to reach out to Dr. McGowan or someone who can help you get to that root cause. And don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up. Find a way. Um, but but yeah, you're not crazy.
And you are definitely not crazy. You were right
Thank
the
you.
whole
Thank,
time. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
I'm just happy you knew to trust yourself and to reach out for help, and that you
Yeah.
had the resources to do that. That's,
Amen. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I keep
Gosh.
telling myself there's another side to this, and I'm going to see that other side.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I love this so much. Thank you for sharing your experience. I
yes.
hope that it helps
Yeah.
another mom who has
Me
been in this,
too.
same boat as you. And
Yep.
I can't wait to see your whole family just start to recover and blossom and just be fully healthy.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. We're very grateful for you.
Well, it's it's absolutely my privilege to be sort of in your circle now.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And
Have a good day.
all right, we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.